welcome back. So we have another project that's come in. Car's actually been here for a little while waiting on the radiator to show up. This is one that we did and put together last summer and sent it home with the customer. And here in Texas, we just have this thing called the month of August, and this car just never really ran as cool as the customer was comfortable with, or us. And so I've ordered from a different supplier of ours, C&R Radiator. We've ordered a different style of radiator. This is actually going to be going to a cross flow, which is going to require us to relocate the battery to the trunk, but we just don't have a choice. And it's going to give us a bigger core design with cross flow intentions. And so we're going to follow through this week as we pull this thing apart, fit the new radiator, get it mounted, redo the hoses as needed, relocate the battery to the trunk, remake some cables and some wiring, and get that done. Then we'll go test drive it. We're starting to have some warm days here. I think today it's 70 degrees here in February, but 3 days ago it was 12 degrees, 14 degrees. So anyway, we're going to bring y'all along on this little journey as we take this apart and put it back together with a new radiator, new fan, and go from there. So stay tuned, hang on. So this is what we're going to be replacing, this radiator. And this radiator is the common interchangeable radiator from most of your manufacturers. It'll go back in place of a stock radiator. But in our case, with this beefed up 302 here in Texas with the AC and stuff on, it's just not enough. We're getting 220 degrees running down the road. We're just not enough water capacity. So we went to PWR, which is also C&R Racing Radiator, and they have a replacement one that's a cross flow. This is going to be a dual fan setup. These are 12-inch fans, but they're dual fans. You can see the radiator's not near as tall. It'll still fit in under our hood, everything just fine. Set up with the upper and lower outlets, hose outlet with the brackets. We will have to drill a couple of holes in the core support, but because of this being the width that it is that is what requires us to relocate the battery. Very nice radiators. We use quite a few of them on a lot of cars. Alright, so we have the old radiator out and on the floor there. I've also got the battery tray taken out. Excuse me. And we're going to do a quick trial fit of this new radiator. It measures like it's going to fit. My only concern was it going to be in the way of our vintage air hardline kit and stuff that went on the front of the radiator condenser to the compressor and all that. So we're going to stick this new radiator down in there and just kind of get a quick visual up and down, right and left, and see what we got to deal with. So here it is out of the box. I think we've already showed y'all that once. That's the front side of it, back side with the dual fans. So this is actually going to fit pretty nice. I just kind of have it resting on those hard lines at the moment. But I think what we're going to do, if we keep it right there, we won't have to redo the hard lines. It's only offset to one side, maybe a 1/2 inch or so. to the driver's side. I think that'll keep us from having to redo the hard lines. We'll just locate, get it level, give it a little space off the bottom so it's not directly sitting on anything. We'll locate us some holes and drill the upper holes first and do a pre-fit on that. Once that's all said and done though, we are going to come back and cut this out to allow this more direct airflow on both sides. Get that opening as big as we can. And then it'll be a matter, we did have with it being a single fan, we had a 40 amp relay in the system. So we're going to have to redo that with a 70 amp because of the two fans, and we'll tie the two fans together and then they'll come on and off based on engine temperature or AC demand. So we'll get started on that and bring you back for a few more updates as we're going. So we got it taped off, gave ourselves a pretty straight line, and then we just ran around this with the cutoff wheel. We got this old course or a radiator mount cut out, and you can see how much of the area was being blocked off. So the new radiator, we've got the holes mounted. We put nut certs in here, so that way it's a one-person job. You don't have to get down through here with a wrench on both sides. And I'll clean this up, straighten these cuts a little bit with a angle grinder, and clean up the edges with some paint, and then we'll see about mounting that radiator in here, and then start figuring out what we're going to do for some new upper and lower radiator hoses. So that's where we are at the moment. So we got the core support cut, set the radiator down in here. And because of this having a Vintage Air SureFit kit in it, it's got some pre-made hard lines that come through the core support based on the old radiator shape and size. So after measuring and looking at it, we just offset the radiator about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and it cleared those lines, so we didn't have to redo a bunch of AC lines. We set the thing in here, we located it, our bolt holes, and we put some nut certs. I put some nut certs in the core support, so now it's kind of a one-person deal. You don't have to have a wrench on both sides. And we got that mounted down in here. I don't know if you can see it. The wiring, luckily this thing already had a 70 amp relay in it after checking when I pulled it apart, because I was getting ready to change out the wiring to a 70 amp for the dual fans, but it already had it. So what we did is I just put a jump post for the positive and ground down here, and just rewired each fan individually. That way if a motor goes out, I'm not cutting and splicing and redoing ends. I just have to take the one motor loose, unbolt it, get that done, put matching ends on it for the power and feed, or the ground wire and power. So now what we're doing is, since I didn't have to move the radiator all the way over to the passenger side, we got to looking, and we've used a lot of the Odyssey batteries on some of the hot rods and stuff, and they're a fairly small battery that have a pretty good punch. And we've measured, we found a battery that's going to fit back in the stock location, but we do have to change the mount. The original battery tray is not going to work, so we're going to go with an Odyssey battery. And we actually even had an Odyssey battery mount in stock. Just to give you an idea of how they go, this will go like so. This plate will be mounted. We have stud plates that come up through the bottom. This mounts down on it, and that holds the battery. But the inner core support inner fender is made just a little different. So what I've done, I've made a cardboard pattern of this piece, and by notching this corner, it will allow the battery tray to fit down in here flat. You can see what we're trying to do, because the battery is going to come in here. So we'll get this cut and mounted. We'll use the 2 existing holes with a countersunk Allen head bolt here to hold it. And with that being a 1/4 inch plate, it'll be plenty stiff. Then we'll be able to put the battery back in the same location it was. We won't have to remake any of the cables. So we should be able to send this car home maybe this weekend. That's where we also, so this thing had, with the other radiator, we actually had to make some upper and lower radiator hoses, and or the lower one specifically, out of some stainless steel tubing. Now I went online and we found a part number that will fit the lower. I did have to cut 1 inch off one end, and then we found a part number that fits the upper, and it's just a standard application, so pretty simple. We can supply these if you end up needing them. So now he has traditional upper and lower radiator hoses. Get the battery tray mounted, get the battery here, it'll be here tomorrow, and get that done. Go test drive it, see how we're doing on all that, and see what's going on. So we'll probably do some video testing of the test drive, showing the gauges and the temperatures and what it's doing at that time. So we got it done. Just got back from a test drive. You can see what we've got in here. Got the radiator all in. We got the battery all finished up. I don't know where you were last on it. We had to modify the battery tray just a little bit, notch the corner over here to clear this wheel well. The neat thing is this radiator, it actually calls for you to relocate the battery to the trunk. But like I said earlier, what we did is we just offset it just a little bit. We found this is an Odyssey brand battery, and I believe this thing's got like 700 cranking amps. It had a lot of cranking amps in it. Smaller battery, and then we used one of the Odyssey mounts, notched the corner on it, and we were able to keep it right here in stock location. Reuse all of our cables that we already had. I didn't have to go in and a lot of labor to redo cables, mount another battery or the other battery, build a bracket to mount it in the trunk, relocate all that. So keeping it up here just saved a lot of time, and it still looks more stock. So driving the car's doing what it's supposed to do, or the radiator's doing what it's supposed to do. It will let it come up to about 190. I think that's the thermostat we have in it. Gauge is open, or the thermostat opens, fans come on, brings the thing right back down to 180, 179, shuts the fans off. It did that multiple times in stop and go traffic, just letting it sit out here idle with my foot on the brake like we're simulating under a load. I've driven it up down the highway 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. Of course, we have cool weather right now here in Texas, 50 degrees today. So this thing running down the highway was running about 162, 163. Pull up to a stoplight multiple times as the light would cycle, temperature slightly climb up, fans kick on, bring it right down. So I'm thinking the test will be in August, so we'll hear from the customer later in the year how it's going. But all in all, this did a really nice job. Now that we're happy with it, we can pull the protectant off of the radiator cap. So we've called the customer, let him know the car's ready. He said he'll be out sometime tomorrow afternoon or Saturday morning to pick it up. So that's where we are on this project. We want to thank you for watching, following us along on this project, along with multiple others. And if you haven't, hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends, help us out in that manner. Also, let us know what you want to see more of or less of. Thank you.